I definitely have had my dabble in HOAs, so homeowners associations and like cul-de-sac suburban communities. I've been on an HOA board before, so there's tons of drama, and it's just if you live in like a suburban community and have an HOA, you know that there's so much drama with these homeowners and just neighbors and the rules and restrictions and regulations that it can easily get ugly. And there's such I can't believe there's no like television show or movie out there about just the drama behind HOAs. So
Want to listen to this Ivory Tower Boiler Room or True Crime and Academia episode ad free? Head on over to our Patreon where I'm giving you all 7 days of a free trial. So patreon.com/ Ivory Tower Boiler Room. And if you join the ITBR professor level, which you'll see gets you access to all of our rewatch podcast series like Queer as Folk and Smash, and all of our Teaches series, including when we rewatched Scream with you all, when we discussed The Exorcist. We're about to do a Britney Spears memoir episode. So, oh, and The Fall of the House of Usher is coming up. You also get access to both book clubs. And while you're at it, while you're joining our Patreon, where you're getting your 7 days for free, I would really love if you make sure you like and follow us on Apple or Spotify, and please leave a review. It really does help us in terms of advertisers and sponsors. Thank you all for listening to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room Network. And it is just wonderful to be part of this arts and culture organization and have you all out there reach out to me. So again, remember, follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Ivory Tower Boiler Room. And we have a Facebook and we're on X as well. Enjoy this episode, everyone.
Your brain needs support, and new Ollie Brainy Chews are a delightful way to take care of your cognitive health. Made with scientifically backed ingredients like Thai ginger, L-theanine, and caffeine, Brainy Chews support healthy brain function and help you find your focus, stay chill, or get energized. Be kind to your mind and get these nootropic chews at ollie.com. That's OLLY.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Hi, this is Dr. Andrew Rimby. So when I'm not here in the Ivory Tower Boiler Room as the host and director of our arts and culture podcast, I am consulting because the Ivory Tower Boiler Room is not just a podcast, it's a small business. And I am officially an entrepreneur. So I've had many consulting clients, and I want to let you all know my services. So I've worked on college admission essay editing. I've worked on a graduate student's thesis. I'm currently helping advise a PhD student's dissertation. I'm working with a small business on revamping and rebranding their social media strategy and just working on new media ideas to expand their audience. So if any of that seems like a fit for you, reach out to me via email. It's ivorytowerboilerroom@gmail.com. I'm currently revamping our website, so soon I will have a consulting section on the website. So don't worry, I'll have a new ad to talk about the new exciting website updates, which will include testimonials. It'll include the different services, but for $30, you get a 1 hour private Zoom with me to talk through how I can help consult you, and then we'll figure it out from there. So ivorytowerboilerroom@gmail.com, easiest way to reach me. Also, remember we have 2 book clubs meeting on November 19th. So I'm hosting the Parachute Women Book Club. Parachute Women is about the women behind the Rolling Stones' success by Elizabeth Winder. And Mary is hosting the True Crime and Academia Book Club, which is all about haunted asylums, prisons, and sanatoriums inside abandoned institutions for the crazy, criminal, and quarantined. So to join the book clubs, head to our Patreon, patreon.com/Ivory Tower Boiler Room, and make sure you choose the specific book club you want to join. I'll see that you've joined, and then I'll make sure that I reach out to you so you get the Zoom link and you'll be there on November 19th. And I can let all of you know in December, our book club choice is Britney Spears' The Woman in Me. So spread the word, everyone. Okay. Also, you can join the ITBR professor level and get access to both book clubs and all of our ad-free videos and audio episodes. Okay, I think I've said everything I have to say. And now here is our exciting episode. Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Andrew Rimby. Welcome back to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. I am so excited to be joined with a guest who I can only describe as cherubic meets just such of a vitality of energy from what I see on Instagram. It's just some of the best photos I've ever seen from the Bookstagram community meets the gay Instagram community. So before I flatter him too much, I should introduce you all to BJ Irons, who works in the field of education as an educational leader and college professor. Many of his personal experiences as a gay man have contributed to his novels. So we'll definitely dig into that because I need to learn more about how all of these personal experiences make their way into such exciting material. And being a part of the LGBTQIA community himself, BJ hopes to continue to bring more fun fictional works to his LGBTQIA readers. And he lets us all know he's a Pisces and a water sign, which, from what I know about astrology, I'm a Virgo. Um, my rising is a Virgo. Because I actually just had my birth chart read on the podcast. So I don't know how. Well, welcome, BJ, first, before I have you dig into your astrology.
Yes,
Welcome.
thank you. Thanks, Andrew, or Dr. Rimby, actually. Congratulations on that also, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, so like a Pisces, from what I know as a water sign, the emotional depth is something I always hear about water signs in general. It's like they really can feel their surroundings or take on um, other people's emotions around them. Like, is that your experience as a Pisces?
Definitely, I definitely see that completely. Yep. There's that emotional side, but then again, there's that, I guess, the empathy and the perceptive side, right? I can definitely like read a room. And then I'm kind of a person that feeds off energy, right? So the energy somebody else gives me is kind of the energy I'm going to put back into like a conversation or a situation. But you definitely hit the nose on the head with that one, at least for me, I think. I don't know about other places, but that's how I feel.
Well, so what I just love, BJ, is first, I brought up your social media, which everyone follow BJ Irons. Wait, your official handle on Instagram is what is
Yep.
it
It's
again?
it's at yep at BJ Irons. You got it.
Okay. Okay. I didn't know if there was like a books at the end of it. I don't know why. Because sometimes authors they'll like add in a little section about books. But at BJ Irons, how long has it been since you've had such an active social media profile with your work?
Gosh, this just started, I think, at the height of COVID, honestly. I didn't, BJ Irons wasn't even invented. And for those that don't know, BJ Irons is just my author alias. It's not my real name. Um, but yeah, it was back in 2020. I officially got onto Instagram and then just started publicizing the books I started to write, and it just took off from there.
And that's what I love is even this podcast I started during the pandemic. And, we hear so much about the negative impact of the pandemic. But I also think, yes, there are the negative side of the pandemic and, the loss of life. I'm not dismissing that. But there's also the creative communities. Like, I don't think we would be where we are in 2023 right now with all of these new networks or me even talking with you, BJ, if we didn't have that time to reflect and think and create new pathways. Like, is that something that even in your own writing, it really impacted your fictional writing was the pandemic?
Completely, yep. And I did not even know I could write. My background's not in writing, actually. It's in science and education. And yeah, during COVID, again, I guess for everybody during COVID, right, there are certain just passions that were kind of buried inside that no one wanted to explore. But now with COVID, with people, working from home, being at home, they kind of and being isolated, they kind of had those opportunities to actually, kind of branch out and explore those said passions. And that's exactly what I did with my writing, and I'm sure that's what you did too with your podcast and being on media and such.
Well, what do you really find so fulfilling, or the energy you get because you are so public on social media, which I appreciate because you've taught me about like my own even risque photos. And I shouldn't even say risque, but like me, I'm on my own empowering journey with my body right now. Um, I might have even released Andrew's Boiler Room, which is like more photos with me and books and steamy photos that I don't want to put on Instagram to
Perfect
like.
title.
Thank you. Well, to tease people with an OnlyFans, but I'm trying to still figure out what I'm doing on my OnlyFans. Um, but or even see if people are gonna bite. Like, is there even an interest with like seeing me and books on OnlyFans? Um, but do you feel apprehensive? Like, has this been a journey of empowerment for yourself since you are so public, of facing critiques? Like, how do we tune out? How do we tune out that noise when you want to just show your passions and you know that you are going to get backlash sometimes?
Yeah, definitely. Again, we live, especially being a gay author and writing male on male scenes and male on male books. Again, there's always that community that is very homophobic or just isn't in tune with our culture. And so, yeah, there have been times where I've gotten some, nasty DMs of some odd ones, to say the least. Just some negative reviews on books that people haven't even read. They're just some just nasty, comments like, "Oh, this author sucks." And then you go on their profile page and they're like a nobody who has like no followers. So we get that a lot. That's just the nature of the game, honestly. No matter what sort of, I guess, pop culture type of career or path you have, there's always, especially being online and having such a presence, you're always going to get every negative comment, but just the overwhelming outpour of just positive comments and positivity and people who have enjoyed the books definitely overshadows those negative ones. And again, just as an author, definitely try to avoid those reviews at all costs. At the beginning, I was kind of like, I was new, I was excited about the reviews, but then over time, I started to realize, no, dial it back a little bit, just ignore them, because then you are going to get those negative ones that are going to, tear away at your anxiety, and just you start to question like certain things, and then you just got to realize not everybody's going to be your fan or your audience, and that's okay. So
Yeah, I tell my team that like once I start to train interns, do not look at like once they start to post on social media, especially on TikTok, there's going to be a lot of likes or positives, but do not respond. And it's not your job to engage with trolling comments. Like sometimes, if I find one trolling comment to be really helpful for me to promote an idea, or I think it's sensational of a publicity moment, I will respond to it just in jest. Like I did one where I was in a bathtub and they said, "I would never go to your practice, doctor." And I had to remind them and check them. Well, I actually don't have a practice. My PhD is in English, but thanks for taking the time to write this. Like, because
I love
I do
that.
I do think sometimes just checking them, they're surprised that someone is actually reading and we have feelings and we have a personality and we're not just a robotic screen and without any agency and voice. But
Yeah.
I like your advice. Like keeping the boundary is really important. And so when did you actually write your first novel? Like what year was that?
That was, gosh, I think the end of 2020. It was December of 2020, I believe. Yep.
So it really was all um pandemic, really spurred, like you said, by the pandemic. But I didn't realize that even your first novel really came out right during that summer. Were you thinking about the idea like right into the first wave of the pandemic?
It really was. Yep. I think it was that May or June I actually started writing it, and I got it finished. Honestly, the first book, and I want to say, I will say, when I do write, I'm very quick and fast with writing. It's the editing that takes a while, but yeah, I would say I finished it by the end of that summer, and then by the time it went through editing and getting graphics and all formatting and everything, it came to light that December. Yeah.
So something we share in common is our obsession with Greek mythology. I mean, I'm obsessed with the Narcissus myth, like it's even in my dissertation title. But I'm also just obsessed with all things like male homoerotic Greek myths, or, even subversive women. I'm really into the villainous women who don't get to tell their stories, like Medusa, or even Antigone, I guess, could be seen as villainous, but
Sure.
Clytemnestra uses an axe to kill her husband, so she's definitely villainous. But like, so what is it about Greek mythology? Because I do want to, let everyone know out there, you have a whole series called Mythology. Did I
Yep.
say that?
Yeah, you got mythology.
Mythology. Yeah, like mythology. Okay, mythology. Um, so where did Greek mythology really enter into BJ's psyche? Like, where does this begin, the journey?
Oh gosh, it began actually in high school, so pre-BJ. It actually happened. When I was in high school, I wanted to go on a health career, and so I took a lot of I was in a magnet technical program where I took a lot of anatomy and physiology type courses, medical pre-med courses in high school, and so I was also required to take 4 years of Latin. And so I had this Latin teacher who I will never forget. She's one of my favorite teachers growing up. Her name was Miss Deborah, and she was just so entertaining, so fun, so engaging. And on top of Latin, she went beyond the curriculum, and just to keep us engaged, she taught us all about just Roman mythology, and also their Greek counterparts. And so just there's so many stories I heard about just Hermes, Aphrodite, Hephaestus, Athena, Zeus, you name them. She kind of retold them, but in Latin, and we had to learn them like in the Latin language. And it was just like so fascinating. And then, of course, at the end of high school was when, for me at least, that was when Real Housewives got exposed. I'm kind of thinking, oh my gosh, these Greek mythology. It's kind of like these are like the archaic Real Housewives, like just the drama, the scandal, the shade. Like it was just all there. And I guess that's where I kind of paths cross, and I'm like, oh yes, I love mythology.
Oh, I didn't know you were a Real Housewives fan.
Oh, big time. Oh my gosh, I am obsessed, borderline obsessed. It's pretty bad. And all things Bravo, honestly.
So you would really love then. I'm gonna have more upcoming episodes with Real Housewives, podcasters and those in the media, because it's something I like to deep dive with my academic hat and look at the behind the scenes and just what they're doing on camera in terms of performing. But I always say it truly replaced the soap opera genre. And I mean, that's what Andy Cohen wanted. And I always say Andy Cohen is our housewife. Like he is the head. He's Zeus, basically, if we're going to use this Greek metaphor.
He really is. It's kind of like the way I picture it too. It's like picture the dais, the Greek gods, right? Zeus is at the center of the reunion, and then all the other gods and goddesses around the dais, they're just bickering and arguing. It's exact perfect analogy.
Yeah, and like Zeus rarely wants to pick a side, but always steps in it with every other figure in the mythology. I mean, Zeus is either sleeping with the women, um, fighting with the men, but is there a specific text? Like, I'm assuming that then you read Edith Hamilton's mythology book. I don't know. For me, that was like my entryway. Was in high school. We got to read mythology by Edith Hamilton. Then we read Mary Renault. Um, I think it was The King Must Die, but I really like Mary Renault when she retells these Greek myths from like the 1960s, I think. She has The Persian Boy, which is Alexander the Great's lover, um, retelling. But you're in the business of retelling myths, which is interesting, but you're retelling it not for just historical purposes, right? It's in your series. What exactly are you doing, even in your first book, BJ?
So yeah, so it's a lot of it is most of it is actual just a Greek actually myths that I've seen from multiple texts over the years, a lot of online research, and so I'm actually not completely like just making completely brand new myths up. I'm just taking the myths that are already out there and kind of interweaving them together into kind of a cohesive flow to make it seem like it's one just long story. Of course, to keep it entertaining, there's some things in there that aren't necessarily completely real, but still it adds to the story and it's still keeping true to that original myth. The only difference though is I do take characters that in Greek mythology that are, like you said, just straight, and then I do like the gender swap, gender reverse. So instead of Medusa, it's now Meduso. And then I make, obviously there was no love story between Medusa and Perseus, but I kind of make it into one in this story. Um, so yeah, just stuff like that is pretty much how I go about it. So
I am here with the co-owner of one of my favorite stores here in Port Jefferson Village, New York. It is called the Soapbox. So Janine said, Andrew, I have these 4 products you need to get your hands on. It's called 4 for Fall. So she's going to go over these 4 products. I know first you have a soap for me. What is the soap?
I have the soap for you. It is called Apple Cider Shea Butter Soap. It's by a company called Greenwich Bay. And this is a great soap because you can use it for your hands or your body. And it has a delicious apple cider scent. And I think you're actually already familiar with it.
Yes, it is
Try
in
it.
my shower. I still have it. It lasts a very long
Yeah,
time.
great lather.
The lather's wonderful. It's just so luxurious, and I love the scent into November.
Yes.
You know, this
It
apple
carries.
cider it evokes so many cozy feelings. After the soap, we have something that you can add on to
Yes.
in the shower. So what is this?
This is a wonderful, wonderful exfoliating shower scrub. It is by a company called Primal Almonds, and it's a sugar whip shower scrub. And the scent is pumpkin spice. It's a moisturizing sugar scrub. So it's tiny little sugar granules. And it's something that you would use after you shower twice a week because you don't want to strip your skin of your natural oils and your moisture. But it's wonderful. It just really exfoliates all that dead skin and leaves your skin very smooth and soft from all the sugar.
So after I use the exfoliant, right now we need to moisturize. So I
Yes.
know you have a really nice fall body lotion for us.
Absolutely. This is just such a delicious scent. This is one of my favorites for fall. The scent is Orchard Breeze, and it's by a company called Michelle Design Works. This is another product that you can use hand and body. It's great. You can place it on your vanity, just a couple of pumps for your hands, or use it on your entire body. But it's shea butter based, so it's extremely moisturizing. It's just wonderful, and the scent is just lovely.
We need something more deep for our face. Everyone
Yes.
wants face masks, and I know that you absolutely love this company and this brand.
This is one of my favorite masks by one of my favorite companies that we carry and we support. The company is called Farmhouse Fresh, and they're right out of Texas. The mask is called Splendid Dirt, and it's a nutrient-rich mud mask. It consists of pumpkin puree, and the benefits of this mask, it's a pore minimizer, a radiance booster, and a skin degunker. So it's an all-around great mask. If you really want a boost of radiance, it brightens your skin and it really cleanses your pores.
If they live on Long Island or near Long Island, what is your address for them to come into the store?
We're located at 18 Chandler Square in Port Jefferson, New York, right in the village. And if you can't make it, you have to come in because we just have so much fun stuff in here, so many wonderful products. But if you can't make it in, please give us a call. We're more than happy to ship any of these wonderful products to you. Call us at 631-509-1424. You could always reach us on Instagram at the Soapbox NY, or you could always check us out on our website, Soapbox NY. And
Yeah, there's
I
so
think
many
that's
ways to
about it.
access your
So many
products.
ways to reach us.
And Janine is more than happy, and Mariana, the other co-owner,
My mom, actually.
yes,
Yes, my
are
mother.
so willing to take your orders
Yes.
via phone, via Instagram, and I can't wait for everyone else to enjoy these luxurious products. LGBT stories are universal, but each one speaks to the individual heart and soul of the writer telling it. Do you have a story to tell? Or have you been moved by an LGBT book, film, painting, television show, or other form of media? Then the Gay and Lesbian Review wants to hear from you. The GNLR believes in bringing awareness to queer art and artists through reviews, commentary, and thought pieces in which the author relates their personal lives to a particular piece of art, a novel, a movie. In addition to the print magazine, the GNLR also publishes articles on its blog. So you can see all of this on glreview.org. That's GLREVIEW.org. Remember, you get 50% off your subscription of the GL Review magazine when you use the promo code ITBR50. That's 50% off your print or digital subscription when you use promo code ITBR50. To learn more about submitting an article for the GNLR, visit their writer's guidelines. The link is located at the bottom of their homepage. And if you have any questions, email Stephen Hemrick. That's STEPHEN HEMRICK at glreview.org. The GNLR and its readers can't wait to see what you have to say. And with Greek mythology, something that I guess I've always been more eager for is I always feel we've had a lack of Greek mythology movies or even film or TV. Like we have a few epics that have been retold in films, but I've always been disappointed. This is just my now grievance, but I've always been disappointed that the gods and the goddesses, in my opinion, are never fully centered on. Like, I mean, a series I really like is, did you ever see the Iliad when they had redone the Iliad as a TV show? Okay.
Yes, I did see bits and pieces of it. Yep.
Yeah, like I mean, I love Bernadette Peters, so I think her, Vanessa Williams, um, are in this TV series. It was like a short, limited series, but I think it's actually free on YouTube because I will send my students to the YouTube series or the YouTube channel. And again, though, I think it's really, for some reason, though, Greek mythology can escape cinematography. Like it escapes the visual because it can instantly become very campy and corny. And that's why the literary is maybe more powerful. Um, like, is that something you're just drawn to, is writing out even Medusa, like rewriting Medusas from a male point of view? What kind of freedom does that give you?
It gives you a lot of freedom, surprisingly. Like you said, there's not really a foundation or already like works out there, or like you said, cinematography out there to kind of for people to kind of picture as they're reading myths and going through myths, and so I kind of have a almost like blank canvas to work with, right? I see you have the myths out there, but just the visual aspect of it. Yeah, I'm not sure. You're right. I'm not sure why there aren't that many just Greek or mythological sort of videos out there, movies, TV shows, things like that. I mean, the audience, it has an audience, right? Like a lot of people do love Greek mythology. It's just fun, it's drama. But yeah, it's a great question, honestly. I'm not sure like why there's so few of it out there. So
I mean, some people might be shouting out loud now as they're hearing this that
oh
there's
yeah.
Hercules, which, I don't want to discount. I think Hercules is probably like from the Disney, the TV shows, has been centered on so much. And there was a musical version of it that just premiered in North Jersey at Paper Mill Playhouse. And I've heard rumors it might come to Broadway, but again, for some reason, like Disney has done so many other Broadway musicals, but my favorite one really is Hercules, so I hope that's true. Uh
Yeah.
Again, it's that Greek myth interest. But maybe, do you think with these myths, like why it's so interesting in your series, there are certain topics though that aren't family friendly. Like these myths are not, it's kind of like the Brothers Grimm fairy tales. Like they really aren't sanitized. Like if you're reading the original sources, there's um more of the soap opera elements, right? Like so like what are some of the most juicy or the myths that you've just been really drawn to?
Honestly, I've written a lot of just Greek gods and goddesses in my work, but just Aphrodite's, for some reason, hers just stands out to me. And it's funny, I include her in my book. She's not, and she's not like a, not a gay character, but I do incorporate her into my second book called Arrogance, which kind of is like, that's like, out of all four, that's probably the biggest soap opera of all the Greek gods. It's like how Aphrodite and Apollo have drama with Adonis and Artemis, and it's just this whole melting pot of how their lives intertwine, and they're complete opposites, right? Aphrodite is just love, sex, scandal, um, cocky, confident, and then Artemis is the complete opposite of her, right? She's chastity. She is just all things pure. Not necessarily she doesn't condone. So when them two kind of cross paths, there's just bound to be disagreements, different beliefs, different values, and then of course you have Apollo and Adonis, who again there's actually are Greek myths out there that aren't really at the forefront, but actually there are myths where they have made love and had sex and things like that and hooked up. And so just that book in general, there's just so much like between all four of those characters in Greek myths. There's just a lot of drama, a lot of arguing, a lot of fighting, a lot of sex. So perfect example.
Yeah, and but it's all based on fantasy, right? Like that's why I love Greek myths and fairy tales. They're sharing the same idyllic, like it's still out of realism. It's not realistic. Like even the sex usually doesn't, I mean, it can end up in a baby, but usually it ends up like in a nymph or some creature. Like it's
Popping out.
never, yeah, it's never like exactly a baby in a baby carriage and they like go by a suburban house. Like it's not that kind of realistic version. Like it's always that fantasy world, which is probably why we keep returning, even to the labyrinth. I mean, that's something with your book. How did you even try to balance these symbolic places, right? Like when I think of right, it's Perseus who has to, or the Minotaur, that's Perseus, right?
Labyrinth, the Minotaur, right? Yeah, that's the Minotaur, and yeah, it's not. I don't think Perseus is in that one. It's I forget which one, but yeah, not Perseus.
I'll look it up. Yeah. But that's why I have Google here. So, what was even trying to think about, like, let's start with, you even have Orpheus, you have Hermes, Hephaestus. Like with Orpheus, that's an interesting one for me. So that's book 3 in your series. Orpheus, it's usually seen as a tragic love story. What happens with him and Eurydice. So how are you even thinking about that love story element? Like in terms of turning it on its head and really putting in a gay take or yeah, a gay narrative.
Yep. So I'll be honest, that was kind of reading about it. Like sometimes for writing these books, I'm actually also learning, right? I don't know every single Greek myth out there, but with Orpheus, that's the same one I know. I heard his Eurydice, and she got dragged down to the underworld, and he went down to rescue her. Like that was the part of the myth that I learned and knew growing up. But then in further exploring Orpheus, it was one of those. He's one of those ones too that was a lover of Apollo's. And so I decided to kind of the first half of that book discuss Orpheus, coming out as a closeted gay man in Greek mythology, and then Apollo sort of taking him under his wing, and then him stepping away from that. And then the second half of the book is when he does meet not Eurydice, but now I change it. She is not Eurydice, he is Eurydice, and so the two of them wind up just that book's actually more of a coming of age and just Orpheus like finding himself in development as a character, and then with the love being the secondary, I guess, sort of topic and symbolism in that book. But yeah, again, like I said, that part of it is in that book, and it's just really fun to kind of just learn new things about Greek mythology. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that was a myth of Orpheus and Apollo. But I'm definitely going to incorporate that into my book because that is my area that I'm writing about, so works well.
Yeah, well, and I think I might have even given you book 6, which is if you're continuing the series, you don't have Theseus. Theseus is the one who goes journeying in the labyrinth. I looked it up, but the Minotaur, maybe Theseus in the labyrinth journey discovers something deep about being submerged into the closet and trying to find his identity. I
There
do
you go.
think labyrinth could be a coming of age journey.
Let me write that one down.
There you go.
Thank you.
And you could say Andrew inspired the labyrinth metaphor now. but you are free to do what you want with your series. So, even just to remind us all, who is Hephaestus again?
So Hephaestus is the Greek god of volcano, blacksmithing, sword of fire. And he's one of the ones that has very, very few myths and far between. You hear about him as like a side character in a lot of the main Greek myths. And a lot of people, because of that, they kind of take what, if you talk about Hephaestus, they kind of picture him as like the boring, dull Greek god. The myths that are out there, he was born by Zeus with a different woman besides Hera, and he was, I'm sorry, no, he was born with Hera, not Zeus. And so Hera, he was born ugly. He had like a gimp leg, and so Hera actually threw him from the cliff because of how ugly she was. She was embarrassed by him, and then he, worked his way back up into Mount Olympus. And that's really the only story out there that's kind of the only main myth about him. There's so many other side ones where he was married to Aphrodite. He took part in building a lot of weapons for different gods and Greek heroes, but that's really all there was out there. So that was actually a tricky one and that took a lot of creative writing. I would say, out of all 5 of my Greek mythology books, that's the one where I actually had to create some brand new myths and stories to kind of bring to the table.
Well, and for your mythology books, um, I'm sure that the ones actually that more creative Hephaestus project, I would think, like, I just feel this as a writer, sometimes when a figure or a story is more iconic, you actually have to really work up a cliff because you're working with so many expectations from the public about how the story is going to be told. It's even when I interviewed Gregory Maguire, like I ask him this all the time, but just how he came out with Wicked, that's a really tough journey of trying to find the voice of the witch, because like the public had such a view of what the witch even looks like in society or on Halloween, in the movie of the Wizard of Oz. Like, it's just in everyone's mind. So, even though, like you said, it did take more creative writing, did you find that it was a fun and freeing journey that was different than, say, the Medusa, just because of how much Medusa's in our in our zeitgeist, in the culture of knowing who that is?
Completely, yeah, and that you're exactly right. So because there was so few myths out there on Hephaestus, he was very a one-dimensional character. So to actually give this guy like the personality you want to kind of write from that perspective, and that book takes a lot of like, there's a big psychological approach I took into that book, talking about his feelings, how he felt by being disowned by Hera, his hatred towards her, the aspect of him wanting to get revenge on her, whereas also there's that nurturing side to him that he's kind of, that there's that dichotomy he's kind of toying with and trying to balance. So yeah, that was actually a great one to write. And then in that book too, I feel like Hephaestus doesn't have many characters around him. So one thing I kind of completely took out of Greek myths was there was Hestia. She was goddess of the hearth and fire. So I actually made Hestia into Hestio, and I actually kind of wrote between them two and actually gave them a love story because they both are god slash goddess of fire. And so I kind of wrote specifically how actually Hestia was the one that gave Hephaestus the ability to use fire and to, create it. And so, yeah, you'll have to read more in my book, I guess, too.
Yeah, no, everyone's
gonna
gonna
have
have
the story
to.
there.
We need to, link in the episode notes for all of BJ Irons's books, which we're just beginning here. So what I wanted to ask, though, even before we go to what you say on your website is the standalone novels, which I just like how organized all the books are, because it just helps as a reader of seeing like which topic you want to dive into first with all your fiction. Is, again, like, I know that you have an author pen name, so you don't have to dig deep or open up too much about this, but I do think for everyone out there who is a writer or someone who wants to be a writer out there who has a professional career where they're like unsure whether it would match their work identity, or they're nervous about taking a chance because it'll they're going to be talking about topics where they're worried that the workplace is going to find out. Like, how did you think about that? Because it's something I hear a lot, even with those who have social media, that they say to me they're so surprised how public I am. But I said, well, I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm allowed to be like, I am my brand. Like what I decide to put on there is my decision. I'm not dictated by the workplace, which is a benefit as a scholar. But a lot of workplaces, they have policies or they don't want you can't be public on social media. So how does that all work into this equation?
Oh, it was been a major struggle. It was probably the biggest fear I had actually in doing this and launching BJ Irons and the sort of side passion that I have with writing. Like you mentioned, I worked in education now for 10 plus years. And I've when I started writing some of these steamy books, that was my biggest fear actually, was just like what my if it did become majorly public, like what my workplace would say about it. It definitely is something that would be frowned upon in the workplace. But then I kind of realized, I think it was Stacey Abrams. I actually heard an interview recently where Stacey Abrams, for those that don't know, she actually is an author too. She writes romance novels on the side under a different alias. And so I guess seeing her kind of really helped inspire me to sort of want to be like, you know what? Here's this woman who's in the public eye. She has a career in politics, and she's doing it just fine. And she's keeping it at least slightly, hidden, right? She keeps completely separate from her work life, and that's just something I've struggled with as this BJ Irons journey continues for me. And it's still something that I do like keep hidden because I am still sort of scared that if others, like especially in the field of education, were to learn about this, how the impact it would have on my professional career. But for the most part now, I think I've gotten comfortable with it. If it does leak and it does get out there, I'm okay with it, honestly. There's nothing like too bad or too crazy. That it's all everything about it is, good natured. There are a couple sex scenes, but I write it from a positive lens. The positivity from these books for the gay culture outweighs the steaminess and some of those raw elements that are in some of my books.
Yeah, well, and there is such a thing as, well, at the college level, there's academic freedom. I'm not sure how, I think when you're in K through 12, um, there's academic freedom, but you also have to be beholden to certain administrative policies that, the content, well, even the curriculum that you teach or the content, is totally different. And I do think though right now it's so important that you've said all that, BJ, because you really are showing a pathway of following your passion and just really um taking a chance and not holding yourself back because you're afraid of what the workplace could say about you. Because I mean, technically you should be protected if you're doing something like under your own name, like it's not something you're doing in the workplace. But yeah, I think there's a lot of people who would love to go into writing or do more of these creative endeavors, but I just keep hearing from people reaching out to me saying they're so nervous because they don't know how their employer is going to view what they're doing. And I think that, like you said, Stacey Abrams was a model for you. I think the more that we have models and figures, the better um, the culture can change and reflect that you can do your own passionate endeavor and it's not going to conflict. Or even there's always going to be the negative Nancy's or people in the workplace. That's
I call them the
just
one percenters, is what I call them.
the one
The
percenters.
one percenters.
Yeah, but they're also probably the ones who are always trying to stir up drama anyway. So it doesn't matter what someone does. Um, but after all that, like, thank you for exploring just how you mesh, or not even mesh, but how you have a workplace dynamic working with your creative dynamic and your creative face. Like, both can happen, and you're an example of that. So I have to ask you about this one book you have, especially because I'm such a Fire Island person and lover. You have something called the Fire Island Ice Queen. You have a novel called the Fire Island Ice Queen. So Can you tell us a little about what to expect or how that idea came to you about Fire Island? I'm seeing hints of the Ice Palace, like with the Ice Queen. What's going on?
So yeah, it's funny. Surprisingly, one would think that the one gay novel I have about Fire Island would be steamy. It's probably one of the least steamiest books I have, ironically. But no, so it's about this college boy. He is very let's just say he has the Ice Queen personality, right? He's very all about his education. He's very almost he kind of is very judgy of people in the gay community for his age. So he's still exploring himself and trying to figure out his journey and his path. And so in college, he lives in DC or Bethesda. I think I put in the book. Um, he has a boyfriend in college, and he finds that his boyfriend's cheating on him, and just like we've all been through, I'm sure, as gay men growing up. Um, so a friend of his named Byron, actually, who is a wild partier, wants to bring him to Fire Island, just to come out of his shell a little more, to kind of show him, hey, life's not all like about just being gay and having a stick up your ass kind of lifestyle. So he goes into Fire Island, and he just is opening him up. He meets this guy on the beach, a complete stranger, who can already read him like that. He knows his type. He's like, you need to come out of your shell more. Like, this is Fire Island. What is a better place where you can't, explore your sexuality and live life a little more than what you're already doing. And so
Hi, this is Dr. Andrew Rimby, and I'm so excited to shout out the Gay and Lesbian Review, who is helping to sponsor the ITBR podcast. For all of you out there, the Gay and Lesbian Review is a bi-monthly magazine where you can discover new things about gay and lesbian literature, history, and culture. And the GL Review publishes essays in a wide range of disciplines, as well as a slew of reviews of books, plays, and movies, and a number of special features, such as artist profiles and their popular art memo column. Each issue of the magazine brings you consistently intelligent, lively, thought-provoking articles focused on a unifying theme. For example, their September-October issue centers on the theme Cracking the Closet. So, starting in the 19th century, a number of artists and writers found ways to crack the closet by expressing their sexuality between the lines or in the interstices of their work. For example, Ignacio Darnad, who is a friend of the ITBR podcast, he's been on our show, writes all about illustrator J.C. Leyendecker, whose work for Ivory Soap and Arrow Collars gave him plenty of opportunities to draw pictures of well-dressed and at times scantily dressed American men. And you also can find an article by Vernon Rosario, who has been on the podcast, and he talks about the quest for sex in the Middle Ages. So, to subscribe, visit glreview.org. That's glreview.org. Click subscribe. So on their website, go all the way over to the right-hand side and you'll see the button subscribe. Click subscribe and enter the promo code ITBR50 because you're getting 50% off your subscription to the print or digital edition of the Gay and Lesbian Review magazine. I can't wait for you all to have your copy of the Gay and Lesbian Review magazine, and make sure that you take a picture when your magazine arrives or when you're reading it online and tag the GL Review on Instagram and ITBR, and we'll share it out in our stories. Enjoy your reading, everyone. Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Andrew Rimby, and I am so excited to be talking about Broadview Press. You might be asking, what is Broadview Press, Andrew? Broadview is an independent academic publisher in the humanities that produces high-quality, pedagogically useful books for use in university and college classrooms. They publish in the humanities, mainly English studies, writing, philosophy, and history, just to name a few genres. And recently, I had on Dr. Jason Holt, who wrote all about the philosophy of sport. And what better summer episode than to talk about what happens when a philosopher dissects the beautiful aesthetics of sporting culture? In the spring, I had on doctors Kyle Stedman and Tanya Rodriguez to talk about what is sound writing, how to make audio projects in the college classroom, how to even have your students create podcasts. And then in the winter, I had on Dr. Jeffrey Weinstock. He talked about analyzing pop culture. Yes, I even sneak in some Real Housewives questions and how to teach composition and make it fun. He uses this whole metaphor about being a mad scientist in this gothic lab. And in the fall, I had on Dr. Ann Stevens, and she talked about literary theory and criticism. And yes, the university season is upon us. So, what better way to talk about the college classroom than to actually understand what is literary theory? That's a wonderful episode for all of you out there who teach literary studies. I love Broadview Press. Make sure you use their exclusive code. It's Ivory Tower on broadviewpress.com. You get 20% off all Broadview Press publications. Okay, until the next Broadview Press interview. And now back to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room.
This guy on the beach gives him a task. He's like, for the next 5 days you're here at Fire Island, I want you to complete these kind of fun, crazy, out of the box bucket list things to do. And so they call it the Fire Island Ice Queen challenge. And so that's pretty much that book, is this character coming out of his shell, completing these bucket lists of things he normally wouldn't do. And you start to see that character development of him. He kind of comes out of his shell a lot more. And that's pretty much the premise of the book.
Yeah. Well, when you're saying we all know what it's like when someone cheats on you, I'm just thinking in the back of my mind, I think I've broken up with my ex-boyfriends before that could have happened. So my problem is I haven't uh allowed for the conflicts to occur. Maybe I should stick it out longer.
There you
But that's
go.
my own journey now, is going back into the dating scene and maybe allowing myself to feel the pain of intimacy and its obstacles, because I've tried to block off any kind of intimacy struggles. Like, I don't want that. I like my friends with benefits, BJ, but I also do think there's something to intimate relationships that maybe opening yourself up and letting your heart feel and not close it off is actually, it's a sign of growth. But it can be very painful, right? I mean, I don't think any relationship, what I've just seen from my friends or learning, is once you're in a long-term relationship, there's going to be obstacles. Like, you're going to have conflicts. You just have to know that you can work through them. Uh,
Yep.
so, and I love what you do though with Fire Island, Ice Queen. And I think that, you yourself always like talking about Rehoboth Beach or Fire Island. Like, have you been to what we would call all the major Northeast resorts of LGBTQ culture?
Not all of them, no. Sadly, there's one I haven't been to, and actually we just had a conversation about this this past weekend. A group of friends, they're all actually in P Town right now, and I have never been. And they are, as soon as I told them, no, I haven't been surprised. They're like, oh my gosh, what is wrong with you? Like, you are coming down with us next year. So yes, I would say on my bucket list next year is Provincetown, and totally.
Yeah, I have never been there either. And I mean, I'm actually, not that far from Boston and that area. It's, again, I think next summer people already invited me like to be at their house, and I'm like, okay, I'll do it. I think I'm so stuck though on like just being so close to Fire Island, that it's just I just love that like ferry ride, and I like the separation from the mainland. It's like, to me, truly a nature paradise. P-Town seems congested from just pictures I've seen. And I mean, people say Fire Island gets congested, but you can always like, I feel even when you're in the heart of the scene of the like queer community or the like partying or events, you can always like walk away a little and be in the quiet. So I don't know. I'll give P-Town a chance. I'll try not to be too stuck on in my same mold. But every time I've like even been in Rehoboth, I just remember there's some like beautiful hotels and boutiques. It's a small town vibe meets kind of like an expanded Cherry Grove in a way. Like if you had just more shops, kind of that's how Rehoboth feels to me. But okay. Yeah, growing up, I went to Ocean City, Maryland. I'm like having
Same
uh
here. I went to Ocean City as well. I grew up in Ocean City, and then of course, as I got older, I realized there's a town right next to it called Rehoboth Beach with a lot more of a gay scene, and now I'm in Rehoboth.
yeah, yeah. And there's Bethany, which I know people love too. Yeah, I know I had Delaware friends.
Love it.
Delaware, Maryland. Yeah, Ocean City, Maryland, though. Talk about crowded. Uh, I think everything, though, even the Jersey Shore. I'm a big seeing my family. We love going to Atlantic City and like the resort life there. That's gotten really popular, but it's all good. I love that everything is getting more popular in the shore towns. So now I have to talk about what you call your gay mafia series. I mean, it has an official name, but basically they're all about these gay mafia storylines. The Bosses of Bane. The Bosses of Bane series. Any allusion to Batman and Bane?
No, none whatsoever, unfortunately.
That's where I my mind goes when I hear the word Bane. Right, wasn't it Bane Enterprises? I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, I believe I'm not the biggest comic person, but I can't
Okay.
recall.
Okay. Well, I just loved Batman and the outfits
Might
that
it might have been Wayne. Now I think about it, Bruce Wayne Enterprises, maybe Bruce Wayne. I don't know.
Okay. Well, any like huge Batman heads out there,
We apologize.
yeah, you can let us know. But I think that there's a character named Bane. It's like the villain. Yeah, Wayne Enterprises. Thank you. I'm like combining, sometimes I'll combine certain names together, but I do think that there was some villain named Bane. Maybe it's not even in Batman. Who knows, BJ? So what I love though is like even using Batman as an example is I was always drawn towards Robin and like that bromance that was going on, even though I always think Robin cared more for Batman than Batman cared for him. Even that Robin would wear that revealing outfit for
Yeah.
Batman.
I feel like we got like a gay, like unrequited love story. We can kind of go with that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think someone should do that as a movie. Could be a really interesting. Um, oh, well, they did it for SNL. They would always parody Batman and Robin, and they're in like this very this penis-shaped car,
Oh
and
yeah, the abominably gay duo or something like that. If I recall from the old SNL skits, is that what it's called? Something like that.
yeah, something gay duo. So when you were though thinking about the gay mafia, first you'll hear that stereotype all the time like, oh, they're part of the gay mafia, or like these are the ones who are making the decisions for the gay community. Like you have to befriend these people because they really make they're doing all the different chess pieces and they make things happen. So why did you know, okay, I have to kind of play around with this gay mafia stereotype?
Well, it's funny. It's actually I would say it's not more of that sort of play in a sense. Like these are just rich, powerful CEO men that are closeted, and then they sort. This is more of an exploration of them too. They start to come out a little more of just rich, spoiled, just these badasses who have terrible personalities. At first, they're all like very villainous, and then they all just like any. A lot of time, let's say mafia series. I read a lot of heterosexual books about it. It's usually like this powerful CEO who meets like this young intern sort of, and I mean that's 50 Shades right there. I'm pretty sure I just described, but there's a lot of books out there that are just like that. And of course, there's not many gay ones. Well, there are some out there. I can't say that, but that's just I love those kind of stories. I think they're fun, they're entertaining. So why not flip the script again with it? And that's pretty much how this series came about, was with that kind of idea. These rich, powerful CEOs dating these other guys that are more, complete opposites of them, the angelic, sweet, damsel in distress kind of gay guys out there.
Well, and I think it's just refreshing that you're writing these narratives because I feel that for a lot of the history of even just gay literature, it's usually been um, more about the coming out story, like not just the coming out story, but more about a distressing adolescent who doesn't have power and like comes from a small town and is trying to like make his way up, but like to already start with these men in power. I mean, in a way, it's exciting because right now I think we all are talking in the queer community, we're talking a lot about red, white, and royal blue because like this movie, well, this book, of course, but that the movie based on the book has really brought attention to gay narratives of those who have power or come from powerful families. And we don't see that a lot represented. We see more usually the Brokeback Mountain kind of stereotype, like where they are closeted, but they're also not able to live their full lives because of necessity. Like they need to make money and they're just so worried about how they're going to have a career if they did come out. Imagine that you're riding the Turner Classic Movie Great Movie Ride in Hollywood studios. It's in the 1990s. As you're journeying through the Great Movie Ride, you pass the Wizard of Oz, where all of a sudden you see the Wicked Witch of the West ascend into Munchkinland in a cloud of smoke and flames. Well, that's the memory I have with the Great Movie Ride in classic cinema when I was at Disney in the 1990s as a young boy. And ever since that, I was hooked on classic cinema. Well, my friend Christian Garcia, friend of the Ivory Tower Boiler Room, has a podcast that you all are going to love. It's called That Old Gay Classic Cinema, and he looks at queer themes in classic cinema like Vertigo, The Wizard of Oz, Sleeping Beauty, Mary Poppins, 101 Dalmatians, Hello Dolly. The list can go on and on and on. So follow him on Instagram at That Old Gay Classic Cinema. You can listen to his podcast on Apple and Spotify. And he also is on the premiere episode of our Queer as Folk podcast, where I'm rewatching every episode of Queer as Folk from 2000. And the episodes come out bi-weekly. So make sure you listen to his episode with me. And he's launching a rewatch show of Smash, where they're putting on a Marilyn Monroe musical. So he's going to be joined by co-hosts, a lot who are in the Broadway and theater industry, and I'm going to be on his first episode. So without further ado, get listening to That Old Gay Classic Cinema. Enjoy. Hi, everyone. Happy almost holiday season. Because the holidays are upon us, I'm sure so many of you out there are thinking, oh my, what am I going to get my friends, my family, my children, my romantic partner, my husband, my wife, any, significant person in your life? Look no further than my good friend Mandy Bengal, who makes handmade crocheted items. Her company is called Mandy Made It. You can follow her on Instagram at MANDEE Made It. And you will see all of these crocheted items that she's going to be able to customize for you, including special characters, sports team figures, even holiday items like a snowflake or a Christmas tree. So I have Mandy's keychains. I have the poison apple from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I have a rainbow flag that she made me. So Mandy is able to really customize an order just depending on what your hobbies and passions are and what item you're really looking for. So because you're listening to me talk about Mandy, she said that anyone who goes to Mandy Made It on Instagram and orders from her and they've heard the Ivory Tower Boiler Room ad, she will give you all a free Ivory Tower Boiler Room t-shirt with your order. So head right now to Mandy Made It. If you were really looking for that special gift, now you don't have to look any further because I have you covered with Mandy Made It. Okay, I hope you all enjoy your items from Mandy Made It. And please make sure that you take a photo of your crocheted items so that we can share it out on our social media. I know Mandy would love that, and I would love to see what you all are ordering from her. She even has an adorable pillow called Netflix and Chill, and she has these cute coasters that she crochets for your favorite coffee or tea mug. So enjoy all your Mandy Made It products. Yeah. So, what is it? Is it fun to really play around with the 50 Shades of Grey stereotype? I mean, I just still remember when the books came out and all my girlfriends, they're like, you need to read this book, read it. It's like so juicy. And like I started to read it and I thought, wow, I don't think you've ever read gay literature because I've seen these kinds of scenes depicted in books like ever since the 1900s. But it did cause a sensation for the straight community.
Yeah, I agree. I think I was in college. I think back almost like 2008 was when 50 Shades first came out. And yeah, same thing, the same with me. Like I guess growing up in gay culture, we talk a lot more about sex and just things like that. Let's be honest too. Think about like the prime example I can think of that is how like just certain topics of like the gay community is ahead of the straight community. Like look at Grinder, right? Grinder, we've had Grinder for years, and then out of nowhere Tinder comes out, and we're like, and these straight people are like, oh my gosh, have you seen Tinder? I can't believe this is exists. I'm like, we've had Grinder for like 20 years. Like where have you been? Like stuff like it's a perfect example, exactly. So yeah, I guess 50 Shades was kind of the first, I guess, publicized book out there that really was steamy and had sex scenes. I guess was kind of that, and we've always had that in gay culture, so that was kind of nothing new to us, but still fun to at least see something like that, that the world it took the world by storm. So
Well, and I feel we've always had, even in literature, what's so exciting is just even how public your work is on social media, but just how you talk about what you write is I was somehow on TikTok. I just love the algorithm that like it's all very queer cinema focused. So there's like movie clips popping up of movies that I had watched on Logo when I had come out in high school. So do you remember that movie Latter Days?
I can't recall that one. No,
Okay.
actually.
It's like this set in um California somewhere. I think it's kind of like a nondescript place, but there's Mormon missionaries who come and there's like their gay neighbor. He like gets very interested in one of the missionary men and does this whole bet with his friend like, oh, I'm gonna turn this missionary guy gay. Like I can make out with him. And like eventually though they like form this love story and it's very beautiful. And you kind of see the homophobia in the Mormon church that's happening. And like this is 2003. So if you are Mormon out there, I know there has been strides made, or at least when I like message Lisa Barlow, like I know she speaks out for that queer community. So
I was gonna
yeah.
say, at least from Salt Lake City Housewives, yeah.
Yeah, but again, I know like they're gay kind of mocks Lisa Barlow's brand of Mormonism. So I'm not a Mormon. I can't weigh in on that and I wouldn't. Um, but there were movies like that. And in the early 2000s, now I'm rewatching Queer as Folk on this podcast with guests. And to see like how steamy, like even the scenes in Queer as Folk, remembering, oh wow, like they really took a lot of chances. And we really haven't. I mean, we have, I guess, in some streaming shows, but I feel like it was just those groundbreaking moments, like even the L Word, and Sex and the City. Even
Oh
uh,
yeah.
there were just those late 1990s to early 2000s, just so many movies, or even Degrassi. I remember with storylines. So, growing up, what were some movies or TV shows or books, of course, that you just even remember picking it up and it really transformed you in terms of, oh, this is possible.
It's funny. I would say Sex and the City was actually one of them. Gosh, that came out when I was like 10, well, about 10 years old. It came out in like I think 98, late 90s, like you said. Yeah, that was one of the first TV shows I've seen on HBO or Max. I forget which network it was on, but where they actually had some queer representation, right? Again, Carrie had a couple of gay friends they showed, and so they kind of introduced their lifestyle. So that was kind of really cool to actually just see growing up. There was not much, I guess, any sort of like gay characters besides Will and Grace, obviously, that were, just in the spotlight on, television on regular, not cable network, but, just off like HBO that I didn't get to see growing up much. So that was kind of a way into the gay community, that for me at least. And then of course there was Desperate Housewives. So there was a couple of gay characters on there. There's the drama, the suburbia type
Yeah.
lifestyle, and so that was another TV show I think that kind of drew me into like gay culture and things like that.
That's so funny. I literally just talked about Desperate Housewives with Manuel Betancourt, who wrote The Male Gazed, which when this is out, it's now out on the podcast. So please listen to it. But I'm rewatching Queer as Folk, but another series I want to rewatch is Desperate Housewives, like in the winter. So, BJ, if you want to either, recap Queer as Folk with me or Desperate Housewives, you are invited back on here anytime.
I would
But
gladly do it. I think I've seen Desperate Housewives twice now, the whole series, so I'll definitely rewatch it again. No doubt about it.
yeah, like I really forget a lot of season one. And I just remember Andrew's storyline. I was so fascinated because he was like our gay character, but he also was full of so much angst and pushed every button. So it's an interesting representation of a gay son. Uh, that show broke a lot of boundaries, especially for being, an evening program on network TV. Like this was not a paid subscription channel.
Nope.
So yeah, I feel for some reason they got away with, I want to say, but even like push so many buttons and boundaries in the early 2000s that now maybe because we're just so inundated with those, they're trying to find what shocks an audience and it's just not as shocking to us anymore. But
Right.
who knows? I'm not, making any of those decisions. But we're at the end of our time, which I can't believe how fast this went. This is such a good conversation. I love like how much you've journeyed into your work. So if you can leave everyone out there, of course, wanting more and wanting to, they wanting to pick up your books and read more of your work, what's something you can tease or something you're currently working on that you can't wait to share with everyone?
Oh, perfect. So, actually, Desperate Housewives is the perfect segue. My next book I'm working on, it's actually probably my longest book. They always say kind of like write what you know, and so like this book that's coming out, I definitely have had my dabble in HOAs, so homeowners associations and like cul-de-sac suburban communities. I've been on an HOA board before, so there's tons of drama, and it's just if you live in like a suburban community and have an HOA, you know that there's so much drama with these homeowners and just neighbors and the rules and restrictions and regulations that it can easily get ugly and there's such I can't believe there's no like television show or movie out there about just the drama behind HOAs. So I am actually writing a book about pretty similar just my own experience as a about this gay couple that moves into this sort of starting to get progressive community, and there are sort of some conservative neighbors and just very opposite, like just political, religious, just neighbors that are out there that get into it. And of course, there's so much drama with their HOA, but yeah, I'm writing that right now, so it'll be a fun one.
Oh, I can't wait. When is that coming out, probably, BJ?
So I am about, I want to say a third of the way through it. But I should be finished it honestly by October, November. It'll be out probably next spring or next summer, honestly, I think. And
Great. Okay.
title is going to be called Up Your HOA Hole, actually. Play on words there.
Oh, I love it. Well, yeah, you're right. You're really tapping into right now. So many want their small town communities or suburban communities. There's a lot who are excited when gay couples move in. They're like, oh, that means like we're going to go through this new revitalized phase. Like they're going to be bringing in the culture. But then there are always a few neighbors who can sense that change is coming and they're reluctant and nervous. So
That's
you're tapping
exact.
into real downtown, a real small town, suburban idea. So I can't wait for that, BJ. Um, this has been wonderful. I want everyone out there, make sure you have time until BJ's new book comes out, but you have at least like what, 12 books, maybe
Yep,
more.
13. This will be number 14, this HOA one. Yep, you got
Good.
it.
Okay, it was close. So bjironsbooks.com is BJ's website. And then, like BJ said, you can follow him at BJ Irons on Instagram. Anything else you want to plug before I hit the end of the recording button?
No, just thank you, Dr. Rimby or Andrew, for having me on the show.
Yeah,
And
you can call me Andrew.
I appreciate it. No, just thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and I absolutely love just the platform that you provided, just to, again, just gay culture in general, whether it's through writing, through movies, through television. Show these are like just fun conversations to have and kind of enlighten people who typically don't have these sort of conversations, that have the same thoughts and opinions as us. So love that you're doing this.
Oh, thank you, BJ. Well, it's so enjoyable doing it when I get to share space with guests like you, and I'm just learning so much from all of these artists' perspectives. So, yeah, thank you. I can't wait for your new work. And I know you'll be back on the podcast. We'll be recapping something. It might be, end of Queer as Folk or the beginning of Desperate Housewives. Depends on when it falls. So, thanks so much. And bye to everyone out there. And I will be back in touch with BJ soon, but get your hands on his books. Okay. Bye, BJ.
Take care.